Hello, welcome to English R&L asterisk. This is the place where you can learn English by listening and practicing every day. Each day we share simple lessons and helpful tips to help you speak English better and with confidence. So get ready to listen, learn, and speak English naturally. Today we're going to explore much asterisk daily advanced English phrases that will help you sound more fluent, more natural, and more confident in your conversations. These phrases are used by native speakers in all kinds of situations. Whether they're chatting with friends, having a serious talk at work, or just expressing their feelings. So, if you want to take your English to the next level, this lesson is for you. As always, just relax, listen carefully, and practice speaking out loud with me when I give you examples. Let's get started. Let's imagine you're talking about something exciting, something that's going to happen soon. Instead of saying it will happen soon, you can say it's just around the corner. For example, the weekend is just around the corner. It gives a positive feeling and builds excitement. Practice saying my vacation is just around the corner. Think about something exciting in your life and try the phrase with it. Now, if someone seems very calm and in control, especially during difficult moments, we often say she keeps her emotions in check. This phrase means someone does not let their feelings control them. For example, even when Hugh was criticized, he kept his emotions in check. Try saying, I try to keep my emotions in check during meetings. When someone is being ignored or treated coldly, the phrase get the cold shoulder is a great way to describe it. For instance, after the argument, she gave him the cold shoulder. This expression is useful when describing awkward or distant social situations. Try this. He tried to make peace, but I gave him the cold shoulder. Sometimes people make quick decisions without thinking. We can say he jumped to conclusions. For example, she saw a message and jumped to conclusions about it. It's helpful when talking about misunderstandings. Practice this. Let's not jump to conclusions until we know the facts. If someone never shows what they're really feeling, we say he has a poker face. That means their expression doesn't change. Even in emotional moments, for example, she kept a poker face during the bad news. Practice with this line. Even when I won the prize, I kept a poker face. When something is not very difficult or complicated, we say it's not rocket science. This means it's simple to understand. For instance, just follow the steps. It's not rocket science. Try saying don't worry about the form. It's not rocket science. If something is extremely boring, you might say, it's as dull as dishwater. For example, that lecture was as dull as dishwater. Practice saying, the movie last night was as dull as dishwater. Sometimes we talk about something that's not decided yet. We can say, it's up in the air. For example, our weekend plans are still up in the air. Try using this phrase. The date for the meeting is still up in the air. When someone gets angry very easily, we say he has a short fuse. This means they lose their temper quickly. For example, be careful. He has a short fuse. Now practice with this example. Don't upset her. She's got a short fuse today. If something is very easy to understand or obvious, we use the phrase it's a no-brainer. For example, choosing the cheaper option was a no-brainer. Say this with me. Getting an early night before the exam is a no-brainer. Sometimes you want to tell someone not to worry. You can say, don't sweat it. It means don't worry about it. For example, I forgot to send the file. You can reply, it's okay. Don't sweat it. Try this line. I'll fix the mistake, so don't sweat it. When someone is very nervous, we say, he's on edge. For example, she's been on edge all day waiting for the results. Try this sentence. He's on edge because of the job interview tomorrow. To describe someone who is very direct or says exactly what they think, we say she doesn't mince her words. For example, when she's upset, she doesn't mince her words. Try this. My boss didn't mince his words during the review. If something happens rarely, we say once in a blue moon. For instance, we go out for dinner once in a blue moon. Practice with this line. I see my cousins once in a blue moon. If someone understands the situation completely, we say he's on the ball. For example, she's always on the ball in meetings. Practice saying you need to be on the ball when managing a project. When you feel you've had enough of something, you can say, I've had it up to here. It expresses frustration. For instance, I've had it up to here with the noise. Try this. I've had it up to here with his excuses. If something costs a lot of money, we see it costs an arm and a leg. For example, that car costs an arm and a leg. Try this. I want a new phone, but it costs an arm and a leg. When someone does something to make up for a mistake, we say he's trying to make amends. For example, after the argument, she tried to make amends. Practice saying, I sent flowers to make amends. To talk about someone who avoids responsibility, you can say, he passed the buck. That means he shifted the blame to someone else. For example, instead of solving the problem, she passed the buck. Try this. Don't pass the buck. Own your actions. If someone starts something with lots of energy but loses motivation quickly, we say he's all talk and no action. For example, he promised to help, both's all talk and no action. Say this. She's always talking about dieting, but she's all talk and no action. When something happens unexpectedly or suddenly, we say out of the blue. For instance, he called me. Out of the blue. Practice this. Out of the blue, she announced she was moving. To describe a situation that's going badly or declining, we use it's going downhill. For example, after the manager left, things went downhill. Try this. The service has gone downhill since last year. When you're talking about facing a very difficult situation, you can say he's between a rock and a hard place. For instance, she's between a rock and a hard place. Both options are bad. Try this. I'm between a rock and a hard place with this decision. If someone is very rich, we might say, he's rolling in dough. It's an informal way to say someone has a lot of money. For example, after the deal, he's rolling in dough. Practice this. That actor must be rolling in dough. Let's keep going with more advanced phrases. When someone is feeling sick, especially with a cold or flu, we say, he's feeling under the weather. For example, she's not coming to work. She's feeling under the weather. Try saying, I think I'll stay in bed. I'm feeling under the weather. When someone finally understands something after a delay, we say, the penny dropped. For example, I didn't get the joke at first, but then the penny dropped. Practice this. After rereading the text, the penny finally dropped. If someone doesn't want to make a decision or avoids giving a clear answer, we say, he's sitting on the fence. For example, she's sitting on the fence about whether to move or not. This phrase is especially useful when discussing indecision. Practice this one. I don't know which side he's on. He's sitting on the fence. When someone is very upset or crying a lot, we can say, she's in floods of tears. For example, she was in floods of tears after watching that movie. Try using this one. He was in floods of tears after losing his dog. If something happens without any preparation, we say he did it off the cuff. That means it was spontaneous or unplanned. For instance, she gave a speech off the cuff. Practice saying, I answered the question off the cuff. When someone tells you something that you must keep secret, you can say, keep it under wraps. 4. Example, we're planning a surprise party, so keep it under wraps. Try this. The new project is still under wraps. When something is very clear or obvious, we say, it's crystal clear. For example, the instructions were crystal clear. Try saying she made her expectations crystal clear. If someone is being completely honest, we say to be perfectly honest. For example, to be perfectly honest, I didn't like the movie. Try using this phrase. To be perfectly honest, I was nervous about the interview. When a situation is very tense or difficult, we use the phrase walking on eggshells. For instance, after the argument, everyone was walking on eggshells around him. Practice this. We're walking on eggshells trying not to upset her. If you do something confidently and without hesitation, you can say he took it in stride. That means he handled it calmly. For example, she took the criticism in stride. Try saying he took the bad news in stride. To describe someone who is very focused and ready to act, we say he's geared up. For instance, the team is geared up for the big game. Try this. I'm geared up for tomorrow's presentation. When something happens naturally without being forced, we say it came naturally. For example, speaking in public came naturally to her. Practice this for him. Solving problems comes naturally. If someone is very serious about what they're doing, we say she means business. For example, don't mess around. She means business. Try this. He walked in like he meant business. When you're not sure what will happen or what to expect, you can say it's anyone's guess. For instance, it's anyone's guess who will win the game. Try this with the weather. It's anyone's guess. If something is guaranteed or certain, we say it's a sure thing. For example, with her experience, getting the job is a sure thing. Say this out loud. He's the best player. It's a sure thing he'll be chosen. When someone is behaving strangely or seems confused, we might say, he's out of sorts. For example, she's been out. Anything I said. She was totally out to lunch. Try this. I tried to ask him a question, but he was out to lunch. To describe someone who gets distracted easily or doesn't stay on topic, we say he's all over the place. For example, her explanation was all over the place. Practice this. The meeting went nowhere. He was all over the place. When something is obvious or clear without saying it, we say it goes without saying. For instance, it goes without saying that we need to be on time. Try this. It goes without saying that safety comes first. If someone is trying to avoid giving a straight answer, we can say, he's beating around the bush. For example, stop beating around the bush and tell me the truth. Practice saying, she was clearly nervous and kept beating around the bush. 2. Say someone barely succeeded or survived, we say by the skin of his teeth. For example, he passed the test by the skin of his teeth. Try this. I caught the train by the skin of my teeth. When something is very unlikely or rare, we use the phrase when pigs fly. For instance, she'll admit she's wrong when pigs fly. Practice this. He'll clean his room when pigs fly. If you need to calm down after something upsetting, we say, take a deep breath. For example, before responding to the email, take a deep breath. Try saying, I was so stressed, I had to take a deep breath. When someone finally realizes something after a long time, we say, it finally clicked. For example, the lesson was confusing, but it finally clicked. Practice this. After reading it again, it finally clicked. If you're in a situation that's too difficult to handle, we say in over your head. For example, he agreed to the job, but he's in over his head. Try using this. She took on too much, and now she's in over her head. When something is very boring, we say it was a snooze fest. For example, that documentary was a total snooze fest. Try this. The presentation turned into a snooze fest after 10 minutes. If someone is wasting time or delaying, we say quit dragging your feet. For instance, he's dragging his feet on signing the contract. Practice with stop dragging your feet and make a decision. To describe something that's not your responsibility, you can say it's not my cup of tea. For example, I tried yoga, but it's not my cup of tea. Try this. Reality shows aren't my cup of tea. When you read trying to remember something, we say it's on the tip of my tongue. For instance, her name is on the tip of my tongue. Try saying, the answer is on the tip of my tongue. I just can't remember. If something is risky or uncertain, we say, it's a gamble. For example, quitting your job is a gamble. Try this, investing in that company was a gamble. When someone is very confident in a negative way, we say he's got a big head. For example, ever since the promotion, he's got a big head. Practice this. He's acting like a know-it-all. He's got a big head. To say something is completely fake or untrue, we say it's a load of rubbish. For instance, what he said was a load of rubbish. Try this. That rumor is just a load of rubbish. When you're waiting anxiously, we say, I'm on pins and needles. 4. Example, she was on pins and needles waiting for the call. Practice with this. I was on pins and needles before my test results came in. If something happens perfectly or at the right moment, we say, right on the money. For example, her guess was right on the money. Try saying his advice was right on the money. When someone is very determined and won't stop, we say he's like a dog with a bone. For example, once he starts a project, he's like a dog with a bone. Try this. She won't give up. She's like a dog with a bone. To describe something that happens in secret, we say behind closed doors. For instance, the decisions were made behind closed doors. Practice this. They discussed the deal behind closed doors. If someone suddenly becomes very emotional or angry, we say he flipped out. For example, she flipped out when she saw the mess. Try using I forgot his birthday and he flipped out. When something works really well, we say it works like a charm. For example, that solution worked like a charm. Try saying this app works like a charm for scheduling. If something is very easy and quick, we say it's a walk in the park. For instance, compared to last year, this exam was a walk in the park. Practice this. That project was a walk in the park. When someone is about to reveal something big, we say, spill the beans. For example, come on, spill the beans. What happened? Try saying, he accidentally spilled the beans about the surprise. If someone is showing off or trying to impress, we say he's putting on a show. For instance, he's not really angry. He's just putting on a show. Practice with this. She's putting on a show to get attention. When you don't want to decide or get involved, we say, I'm staying out of it. For example, it's their argument. I'm staying out of it. Try this. I don't want drama, so I'm staying out of it. To describe a situation that's not as bad as it seemed, we say, it wasn't the end of the world. For example, I failed the test, but it wasn't the end of the world. Practice with I lost my phone, but it wasn't the end of the world. If someone is very predictable or ordinary, we say he's a dime a dozen. For example, in that industry, workers like that are a dime a dozen. Try saying those excuses are a dime a dozen. When something is very important, we say it's a big deal. For instance, getting that scholarship was a big deal. Try this. Don't ignore it. It's a big deal. If you forget what you were doing or saying, we say, I lost my train of thought. For example, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Practice this. I was speaking and then I lost my train of thought. To say something is not certain, we say it's up in the air. For example, our weekend plans are still up in the air. Try saying the time of the meeting is up in the air. If someone gives up easily, we say he throws in the towel. For instance, she struggled with the task but finally threw in the towel. Practice this. Don't throw in the towel just yet. Keep trying. When something happens suddenly or with strong emotion, we say out of the blue. For example, he called me out of the blue. Try using she quit out of the blue and no one saw it coming. When someone is giving their full attention to something, we can say she hung on every word. For example, the audience hung on every word of her speech. Practice this. He was so inspiring that I hung on every word. If you understand something very clearly, especially after struggling with it, you might say, it finally sank in. For instance, when I saw the results, it finally sank in that I had passed. Try this. The reality of moving abroad is starting to sink in. To describe a person who's acting fake or insincere, we say, he's two-faced. For example, be careful around her. She's two-faced. Try saying, he acts nice to your face, but bad mouths you later. He's two-faced. When someone takes a chance, especially when the outcome is uncertain, we say he took a leap of faith. For example, starting his own business was a leap of faith. Practice this. Moving to a new country was a big leap of faith for her. If someone has a talent or passion from a young age, we say it's in his blood. For instance, music is in her blood. Her whole family are musicians. Try this. Teaching is in his blood. He's a natural. To describe someone who doesn't panic under pressure, we say she kept a level head. For example, despite the emergency, he kept a level head. Practice this. It's important to keep a level head during interviews. When someone is reliable and always shows up, we say he's as steady as a rock. For instance, in difficult times, she's as steady as a rock. Try saying you can always count on him. He's steady as a rock. If someone is very good at pretending or lying, we say he could sell ice to an Eskimo. For example, he's so persuasive. He could sell ice to an Eskimo. Practice this. She convinced everyone with ease. She could sell ice to an Eskimo. When someone reveals something personal or emotional, we say he opened up. For instance, after years of silence, she finally opened up about her past. Try saying he opened up about how much pressure he's been feeling. To say something is generally true or reliable, we use as a rule of thumb, for example, as a rule of thumb, always proofread your emails, practice this. As a rule of thumb, I arrive 10 minutes early to meetings. If someone doesn't give up no matter what, we say he's in it for the long haul. For instance, she's in it for the long haul with her career. Try this. I'm in it for the long haul, no matter how tough it gets. When something ends suddenly or without explanation, we say it ended with a whimper. For example, after all that hype, the party ended with a whimper. Practice this. The debate ended with a whimper. No final remarks. If someone finally gets attention or recognition, we say he had his moment in the sun. For example, after years of hard work, he finally had his moment in the sun. Try this. The author had her moment in the sun when the book became a bestseller. To say you're unsure or confused, we say, I'm at a loss. For instance, I'm at a loss for what to do next to practice this. When I saw the results, I was at a loss for words. When someone says something offensive or inappropriate, we say he crossed the line. For example, her comment really crossed the line. Try saying, I was joking, Booty didn't mean to cross the line. If something is kept very secret, we say, it's hush hush. For instance, the project is hush hush right now. Practice this. They're planning something, but it's all hush hush. When someone is very, those excuses are a dime a dozen. When something is very important, we say it's a big deal. For instance, getting that scholarship was a big deal. Try this. Don't ignore it. It's a big deal. If you forget what you were doing or saying, we say, I lost my train of thought. For example, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Practice this. I was speaking and then I lost my train of thought. To say something is not certain, we say it's up in the air. For example, our weekend plans are still up in the air. Try saying the time of the meeting is up in the air. If someone gives up easily, we say he throws in the towel. For instance, she struggled with the task but finally threw in the towel. Practice this. Don't throw in the towel just yet. Keep trying. When something happens suddenly or with strong emotion, we say out of the blue. For example, he called me out of the blue. Try using she quit out of the blue and no one saw it coming. When someone is giving their full attention to something, we can say she hung on every word. For example, the audience hung on every word of her speech. Practice this. He was so inspiring that I hung on every word. If you understand something very clearly, especially after struggling with it, you might say, it finally sank in. For instance, when I saw the results, it finally sank in that I had passed. Try this. The reality of moving abroad is starting to sink in. To describe a person who's acting fake or insincere, we say, he's two-faced. For example, be careful around her. She's two-faced. Try saying, he acts nice to your face, but bad mouths you later. He's two-faced. When someone takes a chance, especially when the outcome is uncertain, we say he took a leap of faith. For example, starting his own business was a leap of faith. Practice this. Moving to a new country was a big leap of faith for her. If someone has a talent or passion from a young age, we say it's in his blood. For instance, music is in her blood. Her whole family are musicians. Try this, teaching is in his blood. He's a natural. To describe someone who doesn't panic under pressure, we say she kept a level head. For example, despite the emergency, he kept a level head. Practice this. It's important to keep a level head during interviews. When someone is reliable and always shows up, we say he's as steady as a rock. For instance, in difficult times, she's as steady as a rock. Try saying you can always count on him. He's steady as a rock. If someone is very good at pretending or lying, we say he could sell ice to an Eskimo. For example, he's so persuasive. He could sell ice to an Eskimo. Practice this. She convinced everyone with ease. She could sell ice to an Eskimo. When someone reveals something personal or emotional, we say he opened up. For instance, after years of silence, she finally opened up about her past. Try saying he opened up about how much pressure he's been feeling. To say something is generally true or reliable, we use as a rule of thumb. For example, as a rule of thumb, always proofread your emails. Practice this. As a rule of thumb, I arrive 10 minutes early to meetings. If someone doesn't give up no matter what, we say he's in it for the long haul. For instance, she's in it for the long haul with her career. Try this. I'm in it for the long haul, no matter how tough it gets. When something ends suddenly or without explanation, we say it ended with a whimper. For example, after all that hype, the party ended with a whimper. Practice this. The debate ended with a whimper. No final remarks. If someone finally gets attention or recognition, we say he had his moment in the sun. For example, after years of hard work, he finally had his moment in the sun. Try this. The author had her moment in the sun when the book became a bestseller. To say you're unsure or confused, we say, I'm at a loss. For instance, I'm at a loss for what to do next. To practice this. When I saw the results, I was at a loss for words. When someone says something offensive or inappropriate, we say he crossed the line. For example, her comment really crossed the line. Try saying, I was joking, Booty didn't mean to cross the line. If something is kept very secret, we say, it's hush hush. For instance, the project is hush hush right now. Practice this. They're planning something, but it's all hush hush. When someone is very disappointed or hurt, we say he was crushed. For example, she was crushed when she didn't get the role. Try this. He looked crushed after the rejection. To say something is very slow or taking too long. We use it's dragging on. For instance, this meeting is really dragging on. Practice this. The decision process is dragging on longer than expected. If something ends in a very dramatic or emotional way, we say it ended in tears. For example, it's crunch time before the deadline. Try this. We're in crunch time. No room for mistakes. When something is extremely expensive, we say it cost a fortune. For instance, her wedding dress cost a fortune. Practice this. That vacation must have cost a fortune. If someone avoids giving a clear answer, we say he's skirting the issue. For example, she kept skirting the issue instead of answering directly. Try using he's skirting the issue because he's nervous. When something is very rare or almost never happens, we say once in a lifetime. For instance, that concert was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Practice this. Traveling to Antarctica is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If someone is overwhelmed or exhausted, we say component placement. She's at her wit's end. For example, he was at his wit's end trying to fix the computer. Try saying, I'm at my wit's end with this paperwork. To say someone speaks honestly without hiding anything, we say, he laid it all out on the table. For instance, she laid it all out on the table during the meeting. Practice with let's lay it all out on the table and be honest. If someone recovers quickly from a problem or difficulty, we say she bounced back. For example, he bounced back after losing his job. Try this. She bounced back stronger than ever. To describe someone who is self-reliant, we say he stands on his own 2 feet. For instance, she's independent, stands on her own 2 feet. Practice this. He does and ask for help. He stands on his own 2 feet. When something is very close or nearly happens, we say it was a close call. For example, we almost missed the flight. It was a close call. Try saying that car nearly hit us. What a close call. If someone is trying their best and working hard, we say she's giving it her all. For instance, he's giving it his all to finish the project. Practice this. Even though it's tough, she's giving it her all. To say someone is hiding their true emotions, we say he's bottling it up. For example, she never talks about her feelings. She bottles it up. Try this. He should talk to someone instead of bottling it up. When something feels overwhelming, we see it's too much to handle. For instance, all the stress is too much to handle. Practice with the responsibilities were just too much to handle. If someone is easy to fool or deceive, we say he's a pushover. For example, she always agrees she's a pushover. Try this. Don't be such a pushover. Stand your ground. And finally, when someone shows strength in tough situations, we say, she rose to the occasion. For instance, he rose to the occasion during the emergency. Practice this even with no experience. She rose to the occasion and delivered. When someone tries to stay unnoticed or blend in, we say he flew under the radar. For example, she worked quietly and flew under the radar. Try this. His talents went unnoticed because he always flew under the radar. To say someone is facing reality or dealing with the truth, we say he's facing the music. For instance, after skipping work, she had to face the music. Practice this. He laid and now he's facing the music at the office. When someone is trying hard to avoid blame, we say he's passing the buck. For example, stop passing the buck and take responsibility. Try saying instead of admitting his mistake, he kept passing the buck. If someone is very excited or energized, one can say she's on cloud 9. For example, after getting the promotion, she was on cloud 9. Practice with he's been on cloud 9 since he got engaged. To describe someone who finally speaks after being silent, we see he broke the silence. For instance, after a long pause, she broke the silence with a joke. Try this. The tension was thick until he broke the silence. When someone avoids talking about the main issue, we say, he's beating around the bush. For example, she never gives a straight answer. Always beats around the bush. Practice. I don't have time for games. Stop beating around the bush. If someone accepts a situation they can't change, we say, she came to terms with it. For instance, he came to terms with the decision. Try using this. After a while, she came to terms with her new role. When someone admits something personal, we say he let his guard down. For example, she finally let her guard down and talked about it. Practice this. He never lets his guard down around new people. If a situation is serious or important, we can say it's no laughing matter. For instance, losing your job is no laughing matter. Try this. He treats it like a joke, but it's no laughing matter. When you avoid revealing your thoughts or plans, we say she's playing her cards close to her chest. For example, he's playing his cards close to his chest about the project. Practice with you never know what she's thinking. She plays her cards close to her chest. To say someone is learning the basics of something, we say he's learning the asterisk of sorts since yesterday. Try this. He didn't say much today. He's out off sorts. To describe something as unbelievable or shocking, we say, it blew my mind. For instance, the ending of the movie blew my mind. Practice this. The view from the top of the mountain blew my mind. If someone is extremely happy, we can say she's on cloud 9. For example, after hearing the news, she was on cloud 9. Try saying I was on cloud 9 when I got the promotion. When someone is being very careful or cautious, we say he's treading carefully. For instance, she's treading carefully with her words. Try this. I'm treading carefully around this topic. If you understand someone's feelings or situation very well, you can say, I can relate. For example, he's nervous about the test. I can relate. Practice saying she's worried about her future. I can totally relate. To say something is very easy. We use the phrase it's a piece off cake. For example, the exam was a piece of cake. Try saying that recipe is a piece of cake to follow. When something is very confusing, we say it's all Greek to me. For instance, I tried reading the instructions, but it's all Greek to me. Practice this. When he talked about finances, it was all Greek to me. If something doesn't make sense or seems unreasonable, you can say it doesn't add up. For example, his story doesn't add up. Try this. The details in this report didn't add up. To describe something happening very fast, we say in the blink of an eye. For example, the car disappeared in the blink of an eye. You practice with this. The weekend was over in the blink of an eye. When someone is lucky or barely escapes trouble, we say he dodged a bullet. For instance, she missed the meeting, but nothing important happened. She dodged a bullet. Try saying, I forgot to submit the form, but the deadline was extended. I dodged a bullet. If someone is pretending not to notice something, we say, he turned a blind eye. For example, the manager turned a blind eye to the mistake. Practice this. She turned a blind eye to the rules being broken. When someone is very proud of something, we say he's beaming with pride. For example, the parents were beaming with pride at the graduation. Try saying, she was beaming with pride after the performance. If someone wants to be alone or distant, you might say, he's keeping his distance. For instance, he's been keeping his distance since the argument. Try this. I'm keeping my distance until things cool down. To describe something very risky or dangerous, we say it's a slippery slope. For example, skipping classes is a slippery slope. Practice this. Lying once can be a slippery slope. If someone accepts a situation, especially a bad one, we say, he came to terms with it. For example, she came to terms with the breakup. Try saying, I've come to terms with the change. When someone is working hard or putting in effort, we say, she's going the extra mile. For example, he always goes the extra mile for his clients. Practice saying they went the extra milito make the event special. When you're doing something just to be polite or out of habit, we often say, he's just going through the motions. For example, she's not really into the job. She's just going through the motions. Try this sentence. He was at the party, but he was just going through the motions. If someone speaks without thinking, you might say, he spoke without a filter. That means the person didn't hold back or consider their words. For example, she tends to speak without a filter, especially when she's angry. Practice with this. I wish he wouldn't speak without a filter. It causes problems. When someone acts quickly without wasting time, we say he got straight to the point. For example, in the meeting, she got straight to the point. Try using this one. I like when people get straight to the point instead of rambling. If a situation becomes much worse suddenly, we say it spiraled out of control. For instance, the argument spiraled out of control. Practice with this. What started as a small disagreement spiraled out of control. When you hear something that surprises or shocks you, you can say that took me aback. For example, his response really took me aback. Practice this. I was taken aback by her reaction. To describe someone very nervous or shy, especially around people, we say he's like a deer in headlights. For instance, when asked to speak, she looked like odd deer in headlights. Try this. He froze on stage like a deer in headlights. If someone avoids saying something directly, we say he beat around the bush. For example, stop beating around the bush and say what you mean. Practice with she kept beating around the bush when I asked about the project. When you want someone to stay calm, you can say keep your cool. For instance, despite the stress, he kept his cool. Try saying, even during the crisis, she managed to keep her cool. If someone quickly loses their calm, we say, she lost her temper. For example, he lost his temper during the discussion. Practice this. Try not to lose your temper when things go wrong. When something is exactly right or accurate, we say he hit the nail on the head. For instance, her analysis hit the nail on the head. Try saying you hit the nail on the head with that explanation. To say you're very tired, especially mentally, we say I'm burned out. For example, he's been working nonstop and now he's burned out. Try this. After back-to-back meetings, I feel burned out. If something is very outdated, we say it's behind the times. For example, that company is behind the times. In terms of technology, practice this. His views are a bit behind the times. To describe something that's likely to happen soon, you can say it's in the cards. For instance, a promotion might be in the cards for her. Try using this. A move to another city could be in the cards. When something is very predictable, we say, it was written all over his face. For example, you could see his disappointment. It was written all over his face. Practice with this. Her excitement was written all over her face. If someone makes a situation worse, we see he added fuel to the fire. For example, instead of calming things down, he added fuel to the fire. Try this. Don't bring that up now. You'll just add fuel to the fire. To describe someone who's very confident in a negative or arrogant way, we say he's full of himself. For instance, after winning, he became full of himself. Practice this. She's talented, but she is a bit full of herself. When something seems perfect on the outside, but isn't inside, we say, all that glitters is not gold. For example, he has a great job, but he's not happy, all that glitters is not gold. Try this. Her lifestyle seems glamorous, but all that glitters is not gold. If someone fails to see the bigger picture, we say he can't see the forest for the trees. For instance, he's so focused on the details. He can't see the forest for the trees. Practice with she's worried about one issue and can't see the forest for the trees. To describe something fake or exaggerated, we say it's a dog and pony show. For example, that presentation was just a dog and pony show. Try this. The ceremony felt like a dog and pony show to impress investors. When something is not guaranteed or is temporary, we say it's to Chango. For example, after the accident, his recovery was to Chango. Practice this. The deal is still to Chango. If someone completely fails or embarrasses themselves, we say, he fell flat on his face. For example, she tried to tell a joke, but it fell flat on its face. Practice saying, I tried to impress the boss, but I fell flat on my face. When someone is hiding their true intentions, we say, he has a hidden agenda. For instance, she's pretending to help, but I think she has a hidden agenda. Try this. You can't trust him. There's always a hidden agenda. To describe a situation where the result is very close, we say it's neck and neck. For example, the two runners were neck and neck. Try this. The election is neck and neck. When you want to show you've been very honest, you can say to put all my cards on the table. For example, let me put all my cards on the table. I want this job. Practice with he put all his cards on the table during the meeting. If something has ended completely, we say it's done and dusted. For example, the project is done and dusted. Try this. Once the paperwork is signed, it's done and dusted. When you want to encourage someone to be strong, you can say, hang in there. For instance, I know it's tough, but hang in there. Practice this. Hang in here. It will get better soon. If someone's behavior is confusing or surprising, we say it's out of character. For example, she was rude, which is out of character for her. Try saying that decision was out of character for him. When you admit you don't know something, you can say I'm drawing a blank. For instance, I know I studied, but I am drawing a blank on this question. Practice with I'm trying to remember her name, but I'm drawing a blank. If someone is acting strange or unusual, we say he's acting out of sorts. For example, he's quiet today. Must be out of sorts. Try this. She's been acting out of sorts lately. To talk about starting something from the very beginning, we say back to square one. For example, the plan failed, so we're back to square one. Try this. If this doesn't work, we'll be back to square one. When someone is completely shocked, we say, it knocked my socks off. For example, the performance knocked my socks off. Practice with this. That movie really knocked my socks off. If someone is talking a lot but not saying anything useful, we say, he's all bark and no bite. For example, he threatened to report me, but he's all bark and no bite. Practice this. Don't worry about his threats. He's all bark and no bite. When someone is very confused or not thinking clearly, we say he's out to lunch. For instance, she didn't hear ropes. For instance, it's his first week. He's still learning the ropes. Try saying, give her time. She's learning the ropes. When you stop supporting someone or something, we say, he pulled the plug. For example, the company pulled the plug. On the product launch, practice. After months of planning, they pulled the plug on the event. If someone feels uncomfortable or unsure, we say she's out of her element. For instance, he looked out of his element at the party. Try this. I was out of my element during that advanced meeting. When you get back to doing something after a break, we say, I'm getting back into the swing of things. For example, after vacation, I'm slowly getting back into the swing of things. Practice.it took a few days, but I'm back in the swing of things now. If someone is pretending not to know something, we say he's playing dumb. For instance, she's playing dumb about the missing files. Try using this. He knew exactly what happened, but he played dumb. To describe something easy or obvious, we say it's plain as day. For example, the answer was plain as day. Practice, it's plain as day that he's interested in her. When someone makes a brave or bold move, we say she stepped up to the plate. For instance, he stepped up to the plate when the team needed him. Practice. Even though she was nervous, she stepped up to the plate. If you feel ignored or unimportant, you can say, I was left out in the cold. For example, they made decisions and left me out in the cold. Try this. After the project was reassigned, he felt left out in the cold. When something causes a lot of attention or reaction, we say it stirred the pot. For instance, her comment really stirred the pot. Practice, that rumor stirred the pot among the whole team. And when someone handles a situation with confidence and ease, we say she took it in stride. For example, he took the criticism in stride. Try this. Even with all the changes, she took it in stride. Thank you so much for spending time with me today, learning and practicing these much advanced English phrases. These expressions will help you speak more naturally, connect better with others, and truly sound more fluent in everyday conversations. Keep practicing. Review this video as often as you need. And most importantly, try using these phrases in your real-life conversations. With time, you'll not only remember them, but also feel confident using them smoothly. You're doing an amazing job on your English learning journey, and I'm proud to be a part of it. Like this video if you want to master English conversation. Don't forget to subscribe English RNL and turn on notifications for more week.